Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 257 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we got a packed episode. This time it's like front-loaded, I think, though. Because we got a great first chop with a lot of stuff. And we have a great interview that I had to do solo due to some prior commitments. It was an off time because they were all based in Italy and London. But we interviewed with a great new movie I saw, Sound of Silence, and so we'll do that. That'll be coming up in a little bit. But we have also a great movie that is funny. I rewatched it, but Tim hadn't seen it yet. I had watched it when it first came out, and that's The Sadness. So that's our feature for tonight. But and then we have a bunch of stuff to go over in our first chop. This is one of our bigger first chops that we've had in a while, I think.
Yeah, we've been doing some pretty hefty first chops here lately this season.
I think that the chainsaw is the real reason, you know.
We're watching a ton of movies right now.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we got to get right into it, Brian. This is our first chop. All right, well, let's go through some movies. I've watched a crap load of movies.
Went back in time. A lot of these.
I watched so many movies that I didn't even put them all in the first chop. Like I just picked the top 5. The reason why is I've been watching a lot of stuff that was on my In Search of Darkness master list. So somebody on Letterboxd, I mentioned this before, made a list of like 687 movies that were anything that was mentioned or the poster art. In all 3 In Search of Darkness documentaries. So it's just a ginormous list. And it's not all 80s because sometimes they reference older films or newer films that had some relation to the film they're talking about from the 80s. So it's a huge list. And I thought it would be fun. Like if I don't know what to watch, why not watch something off that list? You know, because it's full of stuff that I had not seen before. I think there was about 350-ish or so that I had not seen. Wow. Out of the list. So
see, by you just saying that, that's one of the brilliances of David's documentaries, the 3 of them. And actually I found out my third my part 3 is actual Blu-ray is it's about to ship. And I also mine's coming is going to be in the last shipment though, because I ordered that box to put the other
put
2
all
in.
of them in,
Yeah, so it's like I have to be yes, I have a very proud David Weiner collection there because some of his stuff is just so great.
Yeah, they're just incredible documentaries.
Yeah, he's got the sequel coming up. And so, oh my God. So real quick, we'll get back to your movies in a second, but we brought David up. So his new, In Search of Tomorrow, is a sequel to his 80s sci-fi documentary. Someone made such a great idea. They said, because basically it's very, how he gets very, his backers, he likes to get them all included in this. And so he asked anyone that, supports the second one or something, you need to we'll have to have him back on the show to help promote that once it goes live again. Someone posted, they said, what you should do is you should really have a whole big feature on the Saturday morning cartoons that featured sci-fi and space elements. And I was like, that'd be a great idea. I said, that's a great segment. Like that's like right up every one of our alleys. It's like,
oh man, that was that's one of the, when I look back on childhood, like one of the happiest things I can think of is getting up on Saturday morning and watch cartoons. I mean, that's
it doesn't exist anymore. And it's just mostly because, the internet, people can watch these things whenever they want now. There's no event, it's not so much event TV as there used to be. Even like when you do a streaming service, will do like perfect example, like HBO, right? They have Last of Us, right? Yeah, you could watch it live on Sundays once a week, but you could also just not, because instead of just making your day around the time it debuts, you just, watch it about an hour later when it streams.
You could be like me and be 8 episodes behind right now.
So. I'm not that far behind. I'm only like 2 or 3, but it's that's a great show in itself. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's sad that like this generation of kids won't get that same kind of feeling. Nothing like grabbing like a giant bowl of whatever sugared cereal was your fancy at the time and getting up at like 6 in the morning before your parents did. You know.
Oh, you had to get up like at 6 because by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, the cartoons were gone.
Yeah, they already. Yeah, it was like 6 to 10 was like the magic. I think CBS one year like made it till almost like 12, and then like your whole day was shot pretty much. Because you're like there's your Saturday right
now.
There.
I can't imagine getting up at 6 o'clock to watch cartoons. That would be like my worst nightmare. I'm not a morning person, but yeah. So I watched a ton of movies. I watched the first one up, and these are in no particular order. First one up was Dark Tower from 1987. This has no relation to the Stephen King property nor the board game. Dark Tower is about a haunted apartment building. It had a very Poltergeist 3 vibe to me.
Sounds like it right off the bat. Yeah. I think the poster was very much like it too.
Yeah, very, very Poltergeist 3-ish. It's about this again haunted apartment building, and the great thing about this movie though is Michael Moriarty is in it.
He was such a force in the 80s of those kind
of
things.
So Dennis Randall, he plays Dennis Randall. He's a detective, and he's like so smarmy, and he's always like chewing gum, and he's so skeptical of everything. And he comes in to kind of investigate this death of this window washer that happens at the beginning of the movie, where this window washer basically gets attacked by the building and gets strangled and thrown off of his window washer thing.
Shouldn't Michael Moriarty stay away from buildings already? Didn't he learn anything from Q?
I know. But he's so great in this, of course, like he is in everything. And the paranormal investigator is brought in. It's not little... this house is clean. It's not her.
They didn't have.
It's like a middle-aged guy. I can't remember who played him, and he comes in to kind of once they start figuring out that this is maybe a supernatural force, and it's very campy. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it was an interesting movie in that I had never heard of this movie at all, and to just pick this one out of the blue and watch it. And I'm sorry I didn't write down where I saw these, so you'll just have to use like Just Watch, or there's another one called Real Good.
I heard that one's real. Yeah, I was gonna say I heard that one's real good.
I'm starting to use it more than Just Watch. No offense to the Just Watch people, but the Real Good website just works way better. It's much faster.
Do they have an app too, or?
I'm not sure about the app. I haven't looked, but their search engine is way faster than Just Watch. The only thing I hated about Just Watch is you put in a search and it took forever.
Well, and it didn't even like you'd put something in like you'd have the exact title and it would be like the 5th selection and there'll be other things ahead of it. Like it was a weird algorithm that they used to give your results back to you.
Try Real Good. I've been using it more and more, and so far it's been real good. So yeah, Dark Tower in 1987. If you want a new Michael Moriarty vehicle that you probably haven't seen, check that one out.
Nice. I think I might have seen it back on cable, but I definitely do for a rewatch.
It definitely feels like a cable movie that would have shown on HBO at like 4 in the afternoon.
Like countless times, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 times a day, yeah. So the first one I'll do is a movie, and I didn't even hear about this movie coming out, but one of our friends of the show that we had on, Jessica Lynn Parsons. Of course, she's known mostly for the Dungeon Run and playing Xbox Girl in that series of funny videos. She, I've always been a big fan of hers, and so she had she did a movie called 6 Feet, and it's about it takes place during the pandemic times. I know it's funny, we were just saying about like, we don't really want to go back to that time, but of course I want to support people that I'm fans of, so I wanted to support her movie, so I watched it. It was actually pretty good. It was basically, so she plays a guest in the hotel. Basically, the main character is this guy that's like left during the height of the pandemic in Los Angeles, and it's basically like he's by his like kind of like a-hole boss. He's like left for everything to do and to run this motel. Essentially, he's got to clean it and he clean things around, and like and he's already phobic of catching this thing, so he's constantly like so imagine like like my OCD, but he's got to like go in and clean a room, and nobody around him is wearing the mask, and they're getting up in his face, and he's freaking out, and and he's got some kind of psychosis going on at the same time where he's like he has these moments and everything, and he befriends Jessica Lynn Parsons, who is there with her boyfriend, who happens to disappear. So they kind of, he wants to help her try and find him at the same time, all while dealing with his crazy boss and that his father, who actually caught COVID. Although if I remember correctly, they don't say it by name. I think they just call it a virus in it. I guess, I don't know, does COVID have, like, copyrights? I don't know. Does it cost money to actually, like, say COVID in a movie? I don't know.
To pay it royalties.
Yeah, maybe only a big budget can afford it. But anyway, yeah, so and this was on Tubi, so it happened to just come out, like, right when she promoted it, so it was great. So I popped it on and watched it and really enjoyed it. And she's really good in it. So she she's always good in her roles. Mostly because that's what's so good when she does the show in the Dungeon Run. There's a lot of acting involved. It's like basically they're playing through a role-playing game, but they're really into their character the whole time. So,
right,
so she's a great actress anyway. So, so check that out, 6 Feet, for some little pandemic horror there.
All right, the next one up on my list was Cursed from 2005. I missed this one the first time around. This is, of course, a Kevin Williamson werewolf movie. Stars Christina Ricci. It stars Jesse Eisenberg, like peak Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, wow.
Like the most neurotic, kind of pushover, kind of sad sack Jesse Eisenberg you can think of. That's him in this movie. And Christina Ricci's also awesome in anything, so of course she's awesome in this. And it's about they get in she plays Jesse Eisenberg's brother. They get in a car accident. They get attacked by a werewolf, which they find out later. And there's a whole. It's very Kevin Williamson-ish.
Yeah.
It kind of has that same kind of Scream level humor. It just feels very of that time. But I think that's why I liked it so much, because it just kind of brought me back to that whole time period when Scream was coming out and that kind of stuff. So
speaking of Scream, next week.
Woo. Yeah, so I that might be another reason why I was kind of excited, because it kind of like got me kind of like in a weird way got me excited for Scream in a way because it was Kevin Williamson. So it's a fun one. I don't think it was like super critically well received at the time it came out, but looking back on it, I mean, this movie's almost 20 years old now, which is hard to believe.
I know. When you see 2005 and it's 20 years old, you're like, oh.
There you go. Oh, that must have been like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Nope. So it's a really, really fun time. I liked it a lot.
Nice. Yeah, but I mean, Christina Ricci, just can't go wrong with her.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I think the next one I'll skip. I'm skipping around on my little thing to kind of get, and I'm going to do the. This was a movie I actually watched I think I watched it like a month ago or 2 months ago, maybe even. I don't think I mentioned it though. It was called The Women of the Photographs. It was from Japan. One of these like really like kind of like almost like a slow burn is not the proper term, because it never really develops into anything like to a flame. But it's just a very interesting and like kind of like it's kind of like a mesmerizing movie. It's basically about this like kind of misogynistic photographer, and he's basically just one kind of like really a loner. I don't even think he has. I think he maybe has one word he says in the movie, literally through this whole thing, and he's the main character. And he just basically he'll sit there and he just he has this little shop and he touches up pictures and he like lives in his shop and he goes around and he ends up kind of befriending this woman who ends up having she has that body dysmorphia, and she's very big on and she's on Instagram, and she realizes that if she like ends up looking like she gets more likes actually with like this scar she has on her, so the more she shows in terms of like like non-perfection, she does better, and they kind of get up in this weird twisted romance, although it's not very romantic, but she kind of just like ends up staying with him there. There's something about it that's just like that keeps you mesmerized through the whole movie. Like it's not like you're gonna get you don't get bored, even though it's really there's no action in it or anything. It's this very slow, methodical thing, but something about it is just really. I don't know if the cast is just really the acting in it is just really well done. Something about it just stuck with me, so it's really good. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's on. You can rent it on Prime. It was something we got a trailer teaser for. It was actually back in 2020. Anyway, yeah. So right now you can rent it on. It's on Prime, Vudu probably, but I think it's like $3.99 for a rental on Prime if you want to check it out. It's pretty good if you like that. Like good. If you. I think just Japanese filmmakers just have something It's like this style that no matter what kind of genre it's in, it's always kind of like, and it is very loose in terms of horror, this movie, but it's listed as horror, so. Actually, horror, romance, thriller is the full thing, so if you want to.
Which is quite a combo, yeah.
Yeah, interesting combo, right?
The next one up is Charlie's Farm. Charlie's Farm from 2014.
Do they say it like that in there?
They say it takes place in Australia, so it's always said like Charlie's Farm. That's probably a bad Australian accent, but I'm trying to do it justice. But it's about, this one was interesting. This one, the reason this one caught my eye is it stars Kane Hodder and Bill Moseley, which are two favorites, obviously. And the plot here is nothing you haven't seen before. There's this mythical farm called Charlie's Farm where these people were murdered, and so it's kind of become a bit of a tourist attraction in a way. It's one of those places like, everybody, we should go out to Charlie's Farm and see, if we could find any evidence of what happened and that kind of stuff.
Kind of like that, like what's that, the Swanee Lake, there's Shawnee Lake theme park, the one in Virginia. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have this group of young people, not teenagers, but like, college, maybe a little bit older, early 20s, get together and decide they're going to, Tara Reid's in this. She plays the Yankee of the bunch. And
New York Yankee?
Yeah.
Shortstop?
They decide to go out to go see, of course, the guys talk the girls in. They don't want to go, but the guys talk them into going out to this. And all the locals warn them away from Charlie's Farm. Don't go out there. And, of course, they are then summarily picked off one by one. I'm not spoiling anything because if you've heard my description, you've seen this movie 20 times in other movies. But I will say I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. Kane Hodder does not play the bad guy in this.
Really?
That was the cool part about it. No, Kane Hodder plays a good guy in this. He's no makeup, no costume. He's playing Kane Hodder, and the villain in this is this big brute of a guy that really reminded me of Hatchet. There's a lot of Hatchet vibe in this movie. I don't think the humor is quite there, but in terms of like the villain, who's like this big, massive, hulking guy, and the over the top gore is in there. So if you liked Hatchet, I think you'd really like this one. Again, not quite as funny, but it's still very entertaining. I really like this one. 2014, Charlie's Farm. If you're a Kane Hodder fan especially, definitely check this one out.
Who isn't a Kane Hodder fan?
Exactly.
Really, It's like you have
and I've been choked by him. I've been strangled by Kane Hodder, which is the best.
I just got a handshake, but yeah. So next one I'll go to is one that this was a Jeff Whitmire recommendation, and he was like, he actually wrote a song for this. They reached out for him, and that's The Outwaters. It currently debuted on Screenbox, and so this is one of these movies. So I'm like, I think I need to watch it a second time. It's very reminiscent of, it reminded me a lot of Skinamarink in the terms of where when it got to the meat of what it's a found footage kind of thing. So, but once it gets to that spot where things start really going out of control, it's like a lot of close-ups, a lot of weird angles, like people's feet. Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, and it goes on. It's almost 2 hours long. I love movies, but that's too long for like a found footage type of movie. Especially when you have like a lot of crazy. Remember how we thought Skinamarink could have just been shortened by like a half hour? It would have been
exactly perfect. Yeah,
it's like this. It was a little too long. Now Jeff Whitmire's song, of course, for it is brilliant, as all his songs are. He manages to capture the perfect parody for the.
Well, I love that they reached out to him. How cool is that?
Yeah, right.
That's
and
awesome.
Did you see Night of the Bastard wants him to do one too?
That's
like
cool.
The group
That's
from
super
yeah, because
cool.
he wrote how he posted how he loved it, and they wrote, please do a song for us, So and then then I was, so that's awesome, because remember when we had those guys on the show, that was just another great fun interview.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Yeah, so everybody does that, but yeah, I mean Outwaters definitely had its moments, some creepy spots in it, but like I think it was so confusing towards the end what was going on, because of the shot choices and the close-up stuff. And again, maybe I should have watched it on the big screen, in this case, but I had watched it on the on my iPad, so I think I want to rewatch it on Screenbox on actually on TV though next time and see if it makes it a little easier to see things like. But there were these shots of close-up shots of and like screaming and sounds going on and weird, so. It really seems like a lot of these filmmakers, like with Skinamarink and that other one I saw, Landlocked. It's like they're trying to do different things. They're not trying to give you the same old stuff. So they're trying to either like this really lull you into to the world, or remember how found footage was like so cookie cutter back when like Blair Witch obviously set the tone, but then found footage with almost movies were all the same at one point, where it was like, okay, here's the group, we're all so funny, and little silliness going on in the beginning. Then it gets to the second act where they're doing whatever they're doing, and then the third act, all hell breaks loose on the.
And then you end on somebody getting dragged off camera or something.
Yeah. The same thing, right? So some people, and there's some exceptions that were good, like that one, that Nightlight, the one I saw, stuff like that. I think what I like is that a lot of people are taking these really unique risks, I think, and different. They're really trying a different style of these type of found footage things, which is expected after a long time of the same type of found footage film. So I applaud it for its effort on there. I just, I don't know if I missed something or, I mean, it does seem too long for found footage. Like, I think found footage needs to, like, right in that hour 35 is the perfect comfort zone for found footage, I think. Because you can only deal with, like, I mean, who watches home videos? You get bored after a while, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the same thing, it's like, after a while, you want to move on. So I don't know, but I would tell everyone to give it a chance because it's not. I wouldn't say it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I think I need to give it another watch, and maybe without my high expectations for it, to see where it falls.
The next one I actually watched this one today. It's called Trick or Treats from 1982. Have you seen this one, Brian?
No, but it's so funny because there's Trick or Treat. Tricker or Treat, and then now Trick or Treats.
Treats, 1982. Yeah. If you look at the ratings, like it got really bad ratings on Letterboxd. Like I think it was like 2 stars. I actually like this one much more than the rating. It's about this. It's kind of all over the map. The movie starts with the most batshit crazy scene. This woman basically has her husband committed, and so these 2 burly guys show up at their house to take this guy to the mental asylum. While the wife just stands there smugly looking on. And there's like this 10-minute, maybe not quite 10 minutes, but at least 5 full minute fight scene between these 2 orderlies and this guy that involves a swimming pool and trying to get this guy into the insane asylum. It's the most ridiculous thing. But anyway, so cut to years later. He's been in the insane asylum for years, and so there's this little parallel plot line where he's trying to break out. Meanwhile, the wife she now has a son that's like kind of grown. He's about like, I don't know, maybe 12 years old. And she hires a babysitter at the last minute. She's getting ready to like go out of town for like an overnight thing. And she waits till the last minute to hire this babysitter. So the babysitter finally hems and haws, finally comes over. And the kid is like obsessed with magic, like magicians and stuff. So he's got all these magic tricks in his house, puppets and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. But he's also a little bastard. So he's always playing tricks. He's pretending like he's dead. He's like playing tricks on the babysitter. She's telling him, "You're the boy that cried wolf," and she's telling him the story of that. He's just basically making her. Yeah, he's a creepy crap. He's not creepy, but he's a crap bag.
Just a crap bag.
Yeah. And so he's kind of making the babysitter's life a living hell. So you got this whole plot line going, and then meanwhile the dad is trying to break out of the mental asylum, and so of course it culminates in the dad breaking out and then coming to stalk the babysitter and the boy, and it's just a ridiculous. There's one part where the babysitter needs something, like I guess she's doing some kind of a modeling or acting or something, and she needs something from one of her friends. And she says, "Hey, can you bring the, I can't go out. I'm babysitting. I'm on a job. Can you bring this over?" And the woman's like, "Sure." And this all takes place on Halloween night, by the way. So her friend's like, sure, my hair. I was headed over to my hairdresser anyway. I'll just swing it by while I'm over there. It's 9:00 at night on Halloween. Like, who has a hairdressing appointment? What hairdressing appointment are you going to? So it's those kind of logistical like ridiculousness.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's a fun movie. I don't know where this one came from. Again, it's one of those In Search of Darkness lists. But Trick or Treats, 1982. Bizarre little film. I kind of encourage you to check it out. I want to make sure I'm not crazy and I'm not the only one that liked this movie. So
Yeah, that sounds like a Tubi.
It was a yes.
Yeah.
It was no. Actually, I take that back. I think this one's on Shudder. This one's on Shudder.
Oh, Shudder. Oh,
this one's on Shudder. Yeah.
Nice. I think the next one I'll do, and I'm going to be really brief on this one. I'm going to save the theatrical one for last. I'm going to do this one brief just because it also is our featured interview, and I think we're going to do I figure we'll do a bigger episode later on because it's not even out yet, so I don't want to give too many spoilers away. But that's the one, Sound of Silence. That movie that we have the interview for. It's it's of 3 Italian directors actually. They're comboed, and you'll hear in the interview how great they work together. They all kind of do their own little piece. I mean, we've seen a lot of things where there's been 2 directors, but this is a team of 3, and you'll hear in the interview how great it is. But anyway, this movie is really good because they use basically the gimmick in it so much is more the jump scares are done like visually and audibly, but like together, if that makes sense. And there's I mentioned this in the interview, but there's very little music. And usually music is a way to kind of tip the jump scare or build up to a moment. And they use the lack of it. They use sound a lot in places instead. You know what? I'll give the synopsis on IMDb because that's probably the best way I can do it without, kind of giving something away accidentally because I want people to discover it. But it's basically, it just says, Emma must uncover the dark secret behind a cursed radio to survive and protect her family. So it's a haunted object, haunted house premise. Okay. So did you get to watch it yet, Tim? I can't remember.
Not yet. It's on my list.
Yeah, I think you'll really like it. I absolutely loved it. We have the 3 directors on it and the lead. As for part of the interview, and you'll hear it, and it's just it's actually, I mean, unfortunately I had to do that interview by myself. Tim was not there, but it was a really great interview because the 3 guys were just great, and Penelope San Giorgi, who's the lead actress in there, is just phenomenal. It's her first movie too, so it's like crazy how good she is in her first role. So
cool.
But yeah, so check that one out when it comes out. I believe it comes out when you're listening to this. It'll be out later this week.
Awesome. The last one I have here is Sweet Home from 1989.
Alabama? No.
Yeah, not Alabama. This is way far from Alabama. This is actually a Japanese film from 1989. It's about this family of investigators who are going to this old mansion of this former painter, like famous painter. And they're looking for these frescoes that he supposedly did in this mansion, and they want to photograph these. Actually,
Were they thirsty, or you said frescoes?
Yeah, not frescoes. But they're a TV production crew, so they're going to film, uncovering these hidden frescoes and everything in this old mansion. And what they don't know is that the mansion is haunted by the ghost of his wife, and this one you remember that Japanese movie House?
Oh, I love that. I own that movie. I love that one. Yeah,
that's a great movie.
I have the Criterion of that. Yeah.
This definitely has a very house feel to it. It's not as crazy as that movie is.
Yeah, that movie
is bonkers. It's not quite that crazy, but it kind of has that same tone to it.
Oh,
and
cool.
And I think you really like this one, Brian. So, but what's cool about it? The thing I really like the most about it is the ending has some just incredible, cool practical effects. Especially the end sequence is so super cool. So if you like, if you like House, that's the closest movie I can think of to this one that I think you would like. But if you like big practical puppet effects and stuff, I think you'll like this one too.
Oh yeah, this sounds right up my in my wheelhouse here.
Yeah, what's interesting about it though is there was actually a Nintendo game of this movie. And there's some debate as to whether the game came first or the movie came first, or how they interconnected. But the game was only released in Japan. If you go out on YouTube, you can watch a full. Like I actually sat there and almost watched a full walkthrough of the entire game. But it's really neat, like this horror, this like obscure horror Nintendo game that was only released for the Famicom in Japan, and it tied directly into this movie.
Darn, I went to check if that system I bought had it. Like it has some Famicom games on it, along with the regular NES. It's not on there.
Yeah,
I almost thought it was, but was it Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, or regular Famicom?
Just regular Famicom. So it's been like a regular in U.S. terms, it'd been just a regular NES title. Yeah, and apparently there's English. It's there's at least an English language option, because the YouTube video I watched was in English, but I know it wasn't released officially over here. So if you can find it, they consider it kind of one of the first survival horror games, which is interesting. Really? Yeah, so check that one out. Sweet Home 1989 is a very interesting movie. I can't remember where I watched it, but again, check out Real Good or Just Watch, and they'll tell you where you can find it.
Nice. Check that out. So finish it off. Finally, saving this one for last. And this is my. I'm like proud of myself. This is my. My resolution was to go see more horror movies in the theater, and so it continues this one with, of course, the new release, Cocaine Bear. I got to see this with Cone Cane Bear. No, just with Cone. We saw it after the little horror con, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And so we saw that. Let me tell you, this is a movie you got. Remember, we go back that whole theater versus streaming. This is a movie you got to see in a crowded theater, because this one, the crowd in this one we actually were in a good theater. We were in Menlo Park, New Jersey, because right by the con there happened to be this mall that, first of all, this is like a mall that is so like kind of like this one of those old school malls where they have like FYE is still in there, and like Rainforest Cafe was in there. That's where we ate like lunch and everything, and it had also a nice big movie theater attached to it. So I felt like I was like transported back in time, just this whole thing, because it was just a fun little afternoon to go to a mall, get lunch, go see a movie. I was like, oh my god, I'm back in high school. This movie is. I mean, I don't want to give it away because I know you haven't seen it yet, but I mean, there's no secret what this movie's about. But let me tell you, the vibe of it. It's basically those, the redo of the Piranha movies.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that, but without the gratuitous sex. It's like, but all the comedy, off the wall gore, crazy situations, hilarious acting in it. I mean, like, what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich, the one that played young Han Solo. He's in it. He plays like such a weird character in it, but he's like so deadpan in it. But he's hilarious. And like Jesse Tyler Ferguson is in it. Margot Martindale, Kerry Russell. It's just one crazy nutty thing after another. It was such a fun time. Like I don't think I've ever seen Cone laugh so hard through a movie.
That's awesome.
In my life, and it was just such a great movie. Great trailers too, of course. A ton of horror trailers, a lot of good gore in it, a lot of fun. I know Emily, she was telling us how she loved it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one you could do, and I bet you probably take the. I could say you take the kids to this. They've probably seen just as much gore.
Right.
And plus, two of the lead characters are young kids in it, so I think you could probably take Josh and Anna. They're ready for it, so it would be a fun thing. I don't think there's too many. There's probably curses, but nothing they probably haven't heard.
And I can teach them the dangers of drugs.
Yes, exactly. In there,
it's a good parenting moment.
It's a really fun. I mean, I recommend this, like the highest recommendation I'll give. If you just want to go out and have like one hell of a time just watching a fun movie, this is it, Cocaine Bear. And this is gonna start God knows what. I mean, they already have that Meth Gator or whatever one that's coming out, and I'm sure there'll be somehow Amityville will get tied into this years down the road. But yeah, so I hope it's just like such a great fun movie. So yeah, definitely go see Cocaine Bear.
All right, well, it's time for my TUBI Trap, and the one that I missed watching for 2 weeks, which I'm actually bummed I didn't watch this one sooner. This was not actually, in terms of TUBI Traps, this is like Citizen Kane. I mean,
this is very Tim oriented. This movie,
yeah. So Brian chose for me Call Girl of Cthulhu. I didn't know what to expect going into this one. I was pleasantly surprised. I will say, the people that did this actually did their homework on Lovecraft. And it even says, after I was like, while I was watching it, I was like, they actually did a pretty good job putting in a lot of Lovecraft references, and it seems like the person who did this was a big fan of Lovecraft. And then I looked at the IMDb trivia, and they said, yeah, they'd done tons of research to make sure this was filled with like Lovecraft fan Easter eggs. So they did a really, really good job. And it's about this kind of this like, again, sad sack type guy, who's never had a girlfriend. And he kind of like has eyes on this call girl. And he decides to like hire her he's also an artist, so he like hires her to come over and pose nude for him, I guess, in hopes to get lucky or something. But she's got this Cthulhu birthmark on her butt, which has kind of like marked her for the cult of the old ones. Meanwhile, there's this crazy like cult leader preacher guy that's he's like going through all the call girls and sex workers in town looking for this one that has the Cthulhu birthmark, so he can marry her to Cthulhu or whatever.
That's like known that there's one of them that's happening.
Yeah, like he knows it. He's on the lookout for her. So he's like, there's this parallel plot line where he's looking for her, and then you got the story of her being with this guy. And it's kind of the old Pretty Woman type tale where she's kind of fallen for him. But this whole time there's like this cult of people that are like Cthulhu worshippers, and they have these really cool masks that have like these tatters, so it looks like they kind of have tentacles on their face. And then there's he's got these two weird henchmen that are like people in these like full rubber bodysuits, and they have pacifiers in their mouth. I don't know why. And they run around and like do his bidding and kill people that get in his way. I mean, he's like one of those that he's looking for this particular call girl, and he'll kill anyone that's not her. So he'll call them in, see if they make them undress so you can see if they have the birthmark. If they don't, he kills them. So, but it's got that same kind of camp humor as most of these full moon type movies. And I put this one maybe in production value just slightly below like an official full moon feature. But I say that's high praise because I love full moon movies. I think they do exactly what they're designed to do. And this one comes really close to hitting that mark. So I say that as a compliment, not as a negative.
Full Moon's great. That's why I subscribe. $60 a year. I subscribe to their streaming service.
Yeah, this one would fit right at home on Full Moon. I thought it's funny. There's some really clever edits. I mean, it goes a little overboard sometimes, but there's some really clever segues. You know how like how you'll see in horror movies like where he's about to chop the woman's head off, and then it chops into a sausage or something, and there's a cook chopping up meat or something. There's a lot of those in there, which are pretty funny and well done. So yeah, you could tell the filmmakers kind of, unlike a lot of TUBI TRAP movies, kind of knew what they were doing. So I would definitely put this one way up on in terms of TUBI TRAP. This one was less of a trap and more of a kind of a pleasant stroll in the woods. So I would recommend checking this one out. It's pretty entertaining.
Nice, that's good. All right, so I made up for your
you did, yes,
your terrible ones. Yeah. So this next one, I think we just had to share our fun time with. So we've been playing. We've been getting back into Friday the 13th again now that Emily has an Xbox and she joins Cone and kind of various different combinations of the. But Tim had been pretty busy and he finally got to play, and maybe he was like the good luck charm because. So, Emily's pretty new to the game, and she's just learning it, pretty much learning how to play it. And, not that it's a steep learning curve, but it's tricky, Friday the 13th. There's a lot of weird.
Yeah, it's not an intuitive game by any means.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah, it's like, while it's like simple controls, it's still confusing at the same time because there's like much easier ways you should be able to do things in the game than they do. But anyway, so she was playing, she was as a counselor and she was doing pretty good. And then she got put on as Jason, and to play Jason is like at some level it's like most of the time when you play Jason usually wins and kills most of the people in there just because he's got all these extra powers. But the first time Emily played Jason, she really she killed a couple people. She really wasn't she's just trying to learn the controls, and Jason's controls are really hard in terms of like all his 4 different powers he can do, and and all the, how to read the map and what he's, and all the things he does. And so it's funny though, because she got we got on. I think with oh no, that was the first night with Ken. You weren't there when Ken and Cone and Emily both got killed as Jason, right?
Yeah, that was the night.
Oh, that was the same night. Okay, I couldn't remember. Yeah, so
Yeah.
so anyway, that's right. And so it was because it was this like kind of clan. I know you don't have clans in there, but there's these four friends, I guess, that always
These
play. They all have,
MFers.
yeah, they were named like, MF something in there, and that's what Emily called them, the MFers. And so she was like, she became Jason again, like a second time in this round with this group, and she's like, "That's it, I'll get it." She killed everybody, including Tim.
Everybody.
And Cone and me. But it was so funny because she like just totally was getting so into it. She's like, I'm going to get these MFers. And it just sounded funny every time she said it. But yeah, it's amazing though that game still is like, it really has no support whatsoever. It's just like left to its own devices. They're just floating out in its there. But it's still such a fun game. It's sad that there's no one like that the company can't back it anymore and add to it. And maybe somewhere down the road.
We're going to have Killer Clowns game similar.
Right.
And we're going to have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game similar. And we
The
already got a
Texas
great Evil Dead game. So
yeah, so I mean, yeah, the horror games are definitely not lacking. And the multiplayer, especially with Evil Dead, they keep adding stuff to it. And the Texas Chainsaw one, I think, will be really fun because it's like 4-on-3.
yeah, that one's going to be really good.
So yeah, so it could be mayhem. I mean, I never play Jason purposely. I kind of select my thing off because I like more being the counselor and trying not to hide and do kind of things, and I get too frustrated with playing Jason. Plus, I always like the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jason, though, that segues right into our next thing. So, of course,
I haven't even heard this full story yet. By the way.
So yeah, first up, of course, like one of our most legendary episode was when we got the absolutely amazing Lauren Marie Taylor, played Vicky, of course, from Friday the 13th Part 2. She came on, and if everyone remembers the tale where literally we had this amazing interview with her, and then it did not save. And we, as great of a person she is, she was so gracious to come back and record basically another 2 hours plus hours of show. And it was so much stuff, we didn't want to cut any one thing out of it, so we basically released it in 3 parts because that's how great it was.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've always talked to her through, Instagram and email and stuff, and she's always so friendly in there. So we were always dying to meet her. I think she was at one New Jersey Horror Con, but we couldn't go. It was like an awkward one, right? It was like the one in or was it the PA Horror Con? It was one of the ones we couldn't go to.
Yeah.
So and it felt like every time she was appearing somewhere, I couldn't get to it. Well, this time I'm like, okay, she's in New Jersey at this little horror sideshow market that the people of New Jersey Horror Con do. So it's pictured like basically a corner of New Jersey Horror Con. They maybe like, well, actually I shouldn't say that because the main room had about maybe like 30 booths, and then there was another little room that had another like 8. And then there was like in the middle of it, in the hallway leading in between the 2 rooms, were all the celebrities. Where there weren't that many. I mean, she was definitely the biggest. Ron Milkey, the one that played the cop, the first one, he was there. The guy that played the store guy that sold Art the Clown, his new thing and his new horn in Terrifier 2 was there. Jennifer Rubin from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was there. There was a couple of other guests. Father Evil was there. I think he just comes with all the cons.
He comes automatically. Yeah, he's like, they just pack him up every time.
He's a cool dude though, but you can't say a bad thing about this guy. He's like so into it, and he's such a cool guy. And so anyway, I'm like, you know what? Cone's like, yeah, it's like 40 minutes, or not even 40 minutes from him, and it was like an hour and 20 minutes from me. And I'm like, you know what? I'll get to see Cone. We'll go do that. It's $10 too for this like mini con essentially. Steal, right? So it's nothing. So I went there, and of course, so walked in. The funny thing is, we go in. It was literally as we're walking in, we see a whole bunch of these like older women walking in the same door, and some older gentlemen. And I'm like, I'm kind of thinking to myself, are we in the right place? This does not look like the typical horror con crowd. Like now, who am I to judge who likes horror? But I'm like, I'm sorry. I've seen one too many, 65-year-old couples walking in, like, hand in hand, like, here, that this could be it. Well, it turns out it also shared the space with the home and garden show. So you went straight, you went in there, went to the right, down the hallway, you found the horror gun. So, anyway, so we went in there, and so we walked in, and as soon as, Lauren Marie saw us, she, big smile on her face, like she was. Went up to her, gave a no, nothing against Felissa Rose, but Laura Marie Taylor, she rivals in hugs.
So like she recognized. Did you have your Civil War stuff on?
I did. I had my Civil War sweatshirt on, and she couldn't see that part right away. She probably just recognized me from the Zoom, because I could tell she saw it, but she was busy signing something. And she's like, those celebrities we always rave about at the cons that will like just sit there and talk to you about everything. And that's what she was doing. So there was one person ahead, and she was having a nice conversation with them. And then it was funny. So she had a lot of cool stuff on the table, and I don't think the her assistant that was there realized that I knew her from from previous, so she was just like, oh, what do you want? And I'm like, so I felt a little awkward. I'm like, okay, well, she's busy with this person, she didn't even see me yet, and then this woman's asking, so I said, all right, let me go look what it is. So I picked out a thing for her to sign. I wanted to get signed. It's a really cool photo.
It's really cool.
So it's basically and this was one of the most unique photos in terms of like things that I've seen signed. So it was the Friday the 13th Part 2 one sheet poster, but in the body of the Jason, from the poster, Lauren Marie's face is there from when she was just stabbed. And then there's a big white cloud under it where she could write a little message. So she wrote, "Your cabinet or mine." I love Lauren Marie Taylor. Yeah. So yeah, but what's neat is because it's a great visual art on it, plus the photo blended in seamlessly, and a place to sign it so you're not writing over something, which I thought was just fantastic. So anyway. So I got that, picked up my thing, and then the guy moved away, and she saw us, and she was like, "Oh my God," she came and gave me a big hug, and we talked for a while, and and then she was like, we just caught up and everything, and it's just catch up. We said that. And Cone thought of it after it was too late. He said, "Why don't you just FaceTime Tim?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's right. I should have just told her."
Yeah.
But she did say she was very upset that you couldn't make it, and hoped that you will get to see her at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But and Tip, she's just like one of the sweetest, most awesome people you'll ever meet. If you're ever at a con nearby, and she's there, 100% you need to go see her. She loves just talking about the Friday the 13th, about everything else that you'll want to talk about, and she's joking around. She even liked my muscles, she said, which because I guess she felt my muscles. She goes, "Wow." I said, and Cone goes, "No, it's just the padding." I said, "Yeah, it's the padding. I don't have muscles." But yeah, no. So she was great. And then she's like, we're like, "All right, we're gonna go check out the show a little bit." She goes, "Oh yeah, to make sure to stop and say goodbye before you leave." And so of course, we looked around, came back. We did run into that guy, that cool guy that runs this guy Chris. And we're gonna. I already told him that we're all going to be there at the HorrorCon, New Jersey HorrorCon. So he said to stop by, and we'll talk more about him coming on the show. He's the one that rents out Buffalo Bill's house.
Yes, I want him on the show. That sounds
so cool. Yeah. So he was all excited about that. So he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'll definitely come on and definitely come on." And he has a cool booth and stuff. So we'll have to hook up with him at New Jersey HorrorCon and go over some details. I have his card and everything. And anyway, so the con was okay, had some cool stuff. But then we went back, wanted to say goodbye to Laura Marie, and there was this guy there getting his poster signed. It was so funny because she saw us waiting, and every time someone had something cool to sign, she's, come here, you gotta look at this, and she'd pull me over, and it was funny to see it. And then she gave us both another big hug goodbye, and then thanked us for coming. I mean, she's just she's exactly what you hope someone a big fan of you're a big fan of is in person, and so so it was great. It was definitely exceeded expectations. Hopefully I'll get to see her somewhere else again because she's just so great. Oh, and she had little cards for her podcast, and she was telling us some upcoming segments on her show that she's gonna have and everything. Just super super friendly. We'll talk to you about anything. You ask her anything. She's just great. So definitely years in the making. I'm glad it was able. Of course, the one drawback is you were not there, Tim, but hopefully at a con some point down the road we'll be able to both.
Yeah, she does enough cons that I think I'll be able to get to something she's at some point. Yeah,
definitely.
All right, well, I guess, Brian, this is our transition into the interview you did with the Sound of Silence team.
Yeah. No, these guys were great. This, like I said before, it was a trio of Italian directors. So, which is, was unique in itself, because most of the time they make up this company called T3, which it cracked me up because it reminds me of Terminator 3 or something. Mm-hmm. But it was Alessandro Antonacci, Daniel Lascar and Stefano Mandala, which they said I pronounced all the names right, so that was good.
Very good.
And of course, the lead actress Penelope San Giorgi. So yeah, I had a great interview with them. I think you're gonna love this because they're really like, you know, very tight set too. They like what they were even saying. You'll hear in the interview that like they were doing their own like craft services, all this kind of stuff. Really like oh my, real true independent feel to this film. The way they did that, I think you guys are gonna just love to hear how they went about making this really cool movie because it was the movie's great, and I think just hearing about how they came about it was even better. So check out this interview. I think you guys will love it. So we recently had the opportunity to check out the cool new film Sound of Silence, which has been described as a tense and stylish haunted house film and a high concept take on films like The Conjuring and Oculus. With us tonight to discuss it is the directing trio T3, which is Alessandro Antonacci, Stefano Mandala, Daniel Lascar, and we have the lead actress with us, Penelope San Giorgi. So I hope I still got the names right. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having us.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, our pleasure, our pleasure. Oh my God, I just noticed you got the radio in the background, so that's going to creep me out now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
for
off,
watching
it's
the
off.
film. Okay,
She's
that's
nice
So-
today.
So it's not gonna.
Yes.
okay.
Hopefully, it's not gonna make. It's not gonna make problems. It's not
Okay,
gonna
because if
be-
I hear
not-
that song, I'm gonna have to
Not angry.
cancel the Zoom. I'm sorry. No, no, it's great. I really loved the film, by the way. But
Thank
before we get
you.
into that, figure we just go let you all introduce yourself and give a brief little bio on how you got into the world of filmmaking. So I know whoever wants to start can go.
Okay. The three of us, the three directors, we met like 8 years ago, and we started working together on smaller things, and then we made a first experience Italian very low budget horror movie in 2018, and then when that movie was selected at Screamfest, we went to LA for the first time, and we created this trio officially, this T3 project, and we started creating our vision, building the vision, and then we started making some shorts, and then in 2021 we decided that we wanted to make the first official T3 horror feature, English language horror feature, and so we decided to make Sound of Silence, and I know that the three, we are a very unique in a very unique situation since it's three directors, and most people ask us, how do we make it, how do we survive, how do we pull it off? and like the key for us is that we don't really care about our egos. It's not about our egos or ourselves, but it's much more about the movie that we want to make, and so we try to make the best choices for the project, and less and not thinking about us individually. So even when we don't agree sometimes, we now find after of course a lot of work together, now we trust each other, and so we know that we all want the good of the movie, and then on how we work together when we create and write and produce. It's the three of us together, but then when we are on set, we split, and like I do the cinematography and camera work, and then the editing, and he does like his production and set designing. He builds things, and then he's also very good at writing, and he's also very good at cooking. And since we make very low budget movies, it's definitely super helpful.
We do a lot of things,
especially because we love having everyone very happy on set all the time, and that's our like approach. And then he's an actor, so that's how he deals with actors. So
yes,
he talks to actors, and that's what he does. And the three of us manage, we bring together our three brains and build a bigger brain, and that's how we make movies.
It works really well.
Yes, and it works
Yeah.
really well.
I was going to say it must. And actually, it was funny. That was my next. And then Penelope, I'll get to you. Well, let you do your introduce, just because they blended perfectly into my first question anyway. So you explained on how you broke that up, but how do you, like for this film, like how did you go about specifically on this film splitting up the tasks?
We actually, the process keeps getting better the more we work together, and the more we do things and we produce things, it keeps getting better. And this movie was the first like longer experience. It was a longer shoot. So it was the first longer experience, and where we really tested this like teamwork, and it worked very well. Like it was like the first we really, after I finished in the movie, we now know how well it works, because everyone was able to focus on his own thing and trusting completely the other twos in just dealing with the rest of it. And it was really, really, really helpful. And like it's how can I say this? It's like I was able to, because it's a very low budget, like I said before. So we had an amazing team helping us.
Yeah.
It was like 12 people, I guess. And everyone was was doing their thing, but they were also, of course, like in low budget happens, they were also giving more, than expected, and trying to do even more things. And it happens the same with us. So I was doing the camera work, and then I was setting the lights, and I was doing all these things by myself. But I could do that because I was trusting him with the actors and him with the set designing and everything. Yes. So I didn't have to think about that. And funny thing was that sometimes people came to us asking us for things, like maybe they came to me asking me about an acting choice or about a set designing choice, and I said, no, it's not me. You gotta go to the other one. I don't have time for this now. I mean, I have to deal. Oh my god. So that happened sometimes, and it was fun. But that's how we yeah, we tested the machine one more time, and we got the 100% proof that it works very well, even in this movie.
I was gonna say, yeah, it worked out. It worked so seamlessly. But I was like suggesting maybe you guys each have a shirt, like say, like ask me about acting, ask me about the sets. You can all wear that, and then that way it'll be great. So now there won't be any confusion.
That's an amazing idea. Thank you for that. Thank
you. So Penelope, so why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll go do your first question.
Oh, hello. I'm Penelope. Oh boy, that really caught me off guard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Okay. I'm an Italian actress from Rome, and I am currently living in London trying to make the acting gig happen. And I've had the pleasure of working in my first feature film with T3, and I play the role of Emma. That's it. And I really like your dog. I saw your page on Instagram.
Oh yeah. I saw that. You like, oh, that's Opie. He's he's I'm a big Star Wars fan, so of course I got to name him after a Star Wars character. So so actually what I was gonna do is perfect. So I mean, first of all, I was gonna say knowing that this is your film role, which is astounding to me, because you just gave such a riveting and amazing performance in it. So what was that like, though? I mean, did you have any challenges doing your first feature like that, with going right into horror and having to do all that?
Absolutely. I think because I was not familiar with the horror genre and did not have like a group of people around me that knew much about horror. I think people don't give enough credit to the actors working in these movies, because the stakes are so high. And we're now learning to act more and more natural and naturalistic, but we're never exposed to these kinds of situations. So whenever you have to like reach a really high level of fear or panic or anything in between, you're sort of not used to it. But these guys were extremely helpful with that. Daniel especially, like, he would come up to me and he would take me to where I needed to be for any specific scene. And the thing that I loved about the set in general, even though it was low budget, maybe it was its perk, I don't know, but certainly in the style of the T3, that all the special effects were done on set. So any jump scare that you see at anything like that, it's all down to the editing, but everything was on set. So the ghosts were there. Rocco Marazzita, who plays my boyfriend Seba in the movie, was there, and he's just the kindest, most generous person, and terrifying as well, but I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, we'll try to keep low spoilers on it.
Exactly. But it was definitely a group effort for sure. And I couldn't have been any luckier with that for my first experience. You know, while you're finding your feet, that's what you're hoping to get.
Oh, that's great. I wish Tim was here because he would have loved to hear that. He's a big scaredy cat when it comes to jump scares. So it's kind of, we always tease him about it. So I wish he was there and we could have asked him what he thought about that those specific jump scares. But so the next thing I was going to say, so haunted house and haunted object films happen to be one of our favorite kind of subgenres too. So where did the idea and or inspiration come from? Was it based on anything in particular?
We actually, before making the feature for this, we made a short in 2020, right after the quarantine. We really wanted to, you know, go back and producing, and we made this short. And then when it was selected at Screamfest, as soon as we had it in our hands, we realized, I mean, we saw that there was something special with it, that it was somehow very effective. So that's when we decided that we wanted to turn it into a feature. And actually the first idea was just about sound on and off, and there wasn't any vintage radio involved. And then he came, like, he loves vintage stuff and all things and antiques and buying things, and one day he came to the studio with a couple of old radios, and we were about to shoot the short, and I said, well, and we said, well, that radio could really be helpful for the short, you know. And so it became about the radio. And then when we were writing the movie, we really wanted this movie to be a fun ride of, like, full of scares, like in the veins of The Conjuring and Insidious and Lights Out. And, you know, this is I love describing this as a like A Quiet Place, a ghost version of A Quiet Place, plus, you know, and a sound version of Lights Out. But at the same time, we also thought that we could make a more meaningful movie somehow than just a very fun horror movie. So when we were writing the backstory for, like, Behind the Cursed Radio, we just very naturally we ended up dealing with the very important theme, like women abuse, women violence, and women empowerment. And we were so glad that we could deal with that in a movie that was going to be hopefully very commercial still, but also meaningful. So that's how we put together this. And of course, those movies are our inspirations in general, but especially for this movie.
Yeah, I definitely got the vibe. Definitely thought, like, the Lights Out, definitely got it. But I like how you did. It was like the sound version of Lights Out. It's a perfect way to describe it, and how I'd probably describe to someone. And, you know, it definitely got all that haunted house feel like that. And I thought it was great. And yeah, and I think it was so effective too, how you did that. How you had you know, you took, like, you know, you basically had this character come in and, you know, without giving a spoiler away, I'm trying to be vague, but, you know, she has to overcome, you know, you see the things she has to overcome right from pretty much the opening scene where Penelope character Emma comes in. When you see her first scene, you know, she's obviously got to overcome some things. And it's great that she, you know, through the course of the movie, she's able to do that in an unexpected way, because I don't think she expected that kind of challenge she'd have to overcome her first one. But yeah, I love that aspect of it. So now Penelope, this is what question for you. So you have a lot of the heavy lifting in this film, because you know, and a lot of emotion is needed for the role of Emma. So what kind of inspiration or motivation did you use to portray her so well?
That was actually really hard to, like, preempt. I certainly had many actresses in mind that I wanted to take inspiration from, but when I first read the script, I did feel like, okay, this is gonna have to be a huge amount of homework for me to understand the level of intensity that I need to reach, as well as try to get as much as possible off of what the set has to offer, because there's only I felt like there was only that far that I could go preparation wise. And then when I got on set, it was nowhere near enough to what I actually needed. So it was actually quite refreshing once I got there. I was like, okay, this is a completely different job. But like I said before, in no way I felt like I wasn't backed up by everyone in the crew. And like, if we needed to get the extra step to the next level of emotion, I had so many people pushing me towards that direction. And I remember we shot well, I wasn't involved for most of it, but we shot the flashback over 2 days. And that was quite further on into the process. And when I actually got to see the 3 actors involved in the flashback act, I was so inspired. I was like, okay, that's what I need to be doing right now. Only that was a bit late. But definitely also seeing how other people worked on the set, that was really helpful for me and definitely inspiring.
Well, yeah, I mean that sequence too, which I would love to discuss, but I don't want to spoil it because it's too important of a sequence in the film. But yeah, that performance you did, and you didn't. I mean, the slight spoilers during that scene, you didn't say a word. You did it all with emotion, and I thought that was just incredibly impressive because you had to, like, you almost acted as the audience would have, with the same shocked look, and I thought that was just incredibly impressive. So the next
Thank you.
We
question.
cried. We cried.
Yeah.
We
That
cried.
day
that
we
day.
cried. Yeah.
We
Oh, yeah.
cried right after she.
Yeah. We can say what,
we-
but yes.
We
Yeah.
cried.
Yeah.
Penny was done with that scene. It was just.
It was amazing.
It was
She
amazing.
has been amazing.
Yeah, she yeah.
She
I
must have
really
secretly
don't
did
wanna-
like 30 movies because she was so good. I
With
can't
a
believe this is
memory.
her first.
I really don't want to undermine an actor's work, but they really did set me up for that. Like they did
Yeah.
everything they possibly could for me to get to that place.
Yeah,
So,
those 2 days were very emotional.
Yeah.
Those days we were very, very, very emotional.
And a lot of stuff to do and
Yeah.
not much time.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah,
was
well, you
very
guys
fun.
pulled it off. So so
Thank
again,
you.
without
Thank
giving
you.
away any spoilers, which is, it's so hard on this one because I want to talk so much about it. But so the use of sound in this film is of course extremely essential to the plot. In fact, I think there were times, what I thought was so impressive is that where a lot of movies would traditionally use like a music beat, you guys used either like a sound beat or a complete silence, which actually was incredibly effective, way more than possibly a score could have been in that very moment. So going in, how was the process determining where and when you would use that technique in that way?
I gotta say, it was a struggle trying to find the right balance because, it's a movie called, it's Sound of Silence. Okay, so silence was going to be key, and we had to build that tension where you have so much silence for so long that then any type of sound might make you jump. So we had to build that, and at the same time it was a struggle because we were not going to have many dialogues, and so we were trying to go with the silence choice, and I know that's a choice, that's a very risky choice because some people might not understand that they might want more dialogues, more sounds, or more. So yeah, that was risky. We went all for it, and hopefully at least for some it's gonna work, and that was the only way for us. And I believe that we always say in horror, like music, that's what makes you jump, or that's what makes you scared. But to me, a scary scene, when it's really well done, hopefully it should make you, you should be scared of that, even if it's completely silent. Usually it's not, you don't have to need music to make it more scary. That's what I believe in terms of the sequences. So even the short, if you see the short, it's all like very silent, and it's just this music, this vintage music, going on and off, and the ghosts appearing and disappearing. It's all about, and then of course you have the jump scare. But yes, we're not fans of having too much music and trying to use that to make you scared. So even in a movie that's not about silence. We would still try to use silence more than
Yes.
music to make you to build
It's
the
more
fear.
real, in
Yeah.
your real life. You don't have music around you, so when you're alone and you're, I don't know, you're scared of something,
Yeah.
you don't hear anything, and the audience, I think, they feel the same. So yes, when there is silence and there is something wrong, it's really a bad moment in your life.
Because I remember, when people tell me, horror movies are all about the music. If you mute the scene, it's not gonna be scary, and that's what and that's my challenge. I wanna make something that's gonna
Break
be
the rule.
scary,
Yeah.
even if you put it on mute. So that was the idea.
Yeah, no, you should have. I mean, because think about it. How often do you hear, like, anyone, there's always that whole thing, you're home alone at night or something, and there's no sound, but you imagine sounds. So it's like you could, like, everyone could watch those scenes without the sound and almost think they might have heard something. You can put it in your own mind, and there's nothing scarier than what your own mind can come up with in a sequence.
Every
So,
single
yeah.
little
True.
noise,
Yeah.
it's freaking you out.
Yeah, no, you guys played that part to perfection. I mean, the way you worked
Thank you
that,
so much.
I thought it was incredible. I mean, that's one of my favorite, actually, things about this movie is that you did go against the norms. You didn't use music to kind of lead up to a scene. Like that's what was so effective, because sometimes the music will almost cheat. You'll hear the music speeding up and then here comes you can prepare yourself. This you can't prepare yourself, because it'll be literally no sound whatsoever, like a static, and then like boom, something hits you and you're like, oh, and it's like, especially because I watched this because we got the screener. So I watched it on my iPad with headphones on. So I was completely
Wow.
immersed watching this at
You
night
are
in
a
the dark.
brave guy.
And so I got like the full treatment. So it was great.
Wow.
Let me just say that we had the best, I think, sound designer and sound guy, because he did all of that.
It's been amazing.
Federico Malandrino, he was the best. It was a very low budget, and he was able to pull off an amazing sound. In low budget, sound might not always work, and he was the best. And so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, and you had some little touches that I thought were so great. Like, I mean, obviously this based off of, you can tell this is a modern day film. There's cell phones, there's, just more, I mean, yes, it's an older house, but it's either, and the fact that you chose to use, like, in that sequence, an old school typewriter that makes a lot of noise rather than a keyboard, which could sometimes you won't really hear, no, you had I mean, just that alone was brilliant, because, and like every time someone walked in that house, it was like, there's no way to be completely silent in that house.
No way.
So it's like, it was the juxtaposition that was so perfect. It was so good with that. So Penelope, this is another one for you. So it's in the film you play an aspiring singer. That's about as spoiler as I'll get. So do you sing often in real life, and how did you use that for the role, and did it impact you in any way playing Emma?
I love singing. I wouldn't say I'm a singer. I sing for my own enjoyment. But I think performers across the board just usually go through the same process of having to put themselves out there and having to audition for things, and the thing that they love doing is oftentimes compromised by insecurities. So I have to audition for films and theater as much as Emma has to audition for, getting the deal on a song or anything like that. And so the insecurity that we both that she has, I could definitely relate to. And it's you would think maybe it's, a cliche, but it's never a cliche. It's a cliche that will never die because we carry this anxiety constantly. But the way that the script approached it in a beautiful way, and in a way used it for the film, was to use it as a metaphor to then sort of find resolution in the way that she deals with the radio. I'm just gonna say the radio.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything else.
Yeah.
Well done.
We want people to see this. We'll make sure they
Yes.
we'll circle back on the podcast too after everyone's got a chance to see it. We'll make sure people have now know what we're talking about
Full
so vaguely.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it does make sense, because you do have to you do, it was very genuine on that sequence, when you're auditioning. That's the very beginning, so that's not spoiling anything. It's very genuine. You see the nerves, you see the fear, so that you did that really well. So I want to talk next. This is for, basically it's for the T3 guys, but if anyone, Penelope, you have an ad in this too. So I got to talk about the setting of this film, because everyone's always told me, like, I've never been, but everyone's told me how beautiful Italy is, and you guys somehow made it creepy now. So it's like, now I'm gonna second guess. No, I'm just kidding. I still want to go. But so how'd you go about making, like, that? You basically took a house, and it didn't look like much was done to make it creepy, other than possibly the lighting and the angles and the shots and everything. Yeah. So what was your process in making that?
Cinematography to us is, especially to me, it's one of the most important things. Like, I love classic and elegant and beautiful looking movies. So I try to get the best image that I can, and even if the budget was low, we try to choose the locations and lighting and every choice for that. And locations in low budgets are always very tough to find, very hard to find, because you write something and you picture things, and then you have to meet the reality of that, and it's not always easy. But when we found the house, we were shocked, because it was exactly like we had pictured it in the script. So yes, we did not do that much to change it, but I had one specific problem with the only problem that I had was with the white walls. It was all white walls. So then I decided to color that with the cinematography, color in the night and making it more bluish and greenish, so to lose that white walls effect that I'm not a fan of. And then we try to keep the movie very classic, with also by choosing the rest of the locations. So like the hospital was still like more of a vintage look instead of a modern. And then we had one build stage. The only thing that we had to build was the soundproof room, because we couldn't have that in the house. So he built it out of nothing. And even the apartment, Emma's apartment, was built here in the studio. But yeah, but the house, I'm happy that you could find it, that you found it like creepy, because it's all about, yes, lighting, and then of course the lens choices and the shots. And we love going with these wide shots, and you have your lead very small in the middle, and she's overwhelmed that she's like very small in this
space,
huge environment. And yeah, of course, and we went with this very classic and not too much movements, so we went more with a classic take, both because of the budget, but also because of the location, because the location did not allow us to move too much. But yeah, I'm happy that you liked it. I mean,
a lot.
But yeah, Italy has a lot of story. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of history. So there's the good, but there's also the creepy old ghosts coming back. So there's a lot.
Well, yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to say that one of the cool things you did a lot, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of panning shots. There was a lot of shots with the character in frame, and other characters came into the frame, and that alone is a little bit jarring and effective, and it made it effective, because it kind of gave you this unintentional jump scare, possibly sometimes, just because people, you're watching something and your mind's focusing, and then someone will come in from the side or almost from behind the camera, and that was that's a brilliant way, technically, to make an easy shot work creepy like that.
We like
so
to surprise. Yes.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like, yeah, you guys, I love all finding out about these techniques, and it's really exciting when I get to when I notice something so well done, and then here it is that you've actually, that was your goal. You wanted to have it impactful.
That's
that
very
way.
fun. That's one of the funniest. That's one of the funniest parts of making a horror movie. It's like when you build the scares, that's all. Like, it's very difficult to build it, and then you have to make it work in editing. So it's not always easy, but it's very fun.
Well, especially now because so many horror movies are out there, and horror fans like myself and Tim, we've seen so many horror movies. So to get us, to not to sound like we're snobs or anything, like, oh, try and impress us, not like that, but like, it's hard sometimes to give us a jump scare still, or an effective creep moment. But you guys did a great job on that, because I found myself going like, oh, it's like, so this bravo on that one. So one quick thing for Penelope before we move on to the end here. Did you throw all your radios out after filming this movie?
Absolutely.
I don't blame you.
I have no recording device, nothing like that. I don't listen to music anymore.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was the case. I was thinking the same thing after I saw it. But so one of the things, and this could be everybody group question here. So we're Tim and I usually are always fascinated by different tales from the set of a film. So are there any fun and unusual stories that happen that you guys want to share? I know there's got to be some funny ones in there.
Yeah, there's definitely was some.
Didn't we have a ghost in the house?
See, that's what I was looking for. I hope that was the case.
Yes.
I have a vague memory of someone saying like things are sort of changing, but like tiny things like light
something
misplacing
happened.
and some or something like that. And
right.
someone was like, yeah, there has to be a ghost.
Yes, and there was once we were having a break day, like we were not shooting that day, and so I was alone because we were sleeping at the location, like some of us, so it was like all in every single day,
the lucky one.
And I was there by myself, and I was shooting some like details, some things just by myself, and someone rang the bell. The bell, and it was a very a very ugly sound. So
a jump scare.
I jumped, and then I went outside, and nobody was there. So it was a jump scare. Plus, it was creepy because nobody was there. And so I said, "Okay, I'm not asking any more things." And you know why? Because I love to build the scares, but at the same time, the most
he's the scared one.
The most easily scared, one of the most easily scared people in the world. Like I hate pranks. I hate being pranked. Like when he tries to do it to me, I hate it. And I look at movies like this, so I try to use that to beat the scares. Maybe that's why they might work. I don't know, but
well, yeah, because I mean, if you're terrified, and most likely other people are as well. So it's you put that out there, it's gonna be great.
I try to use that fear. Yeah.
But that is great. So we're gonna wrap this up now. So I just wanted to say though, guys, like, once again, and Penelope, this movie I really, really enjoyed it. I watched it twice, and I found some new things the second time even that I liked, and it's just such a great movie that I hope really people go out there, give it a chance, discover it. So why don't you let our listeners know where they could find it when it comes out for everyone?
Yeah, so the movie comes out on March 9th, the 9th, on VOD and digital through XYZ, distribution XYZ. So in the US, so I guess it's gonna be like you can buy it. I guess you can buy it anywhere, right? Because we're in Italy, so I don't know how it works in the US, but I think that you can buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, we have about 42 different streaming spots to
buy. Yeah, so I guess so it's gonna be there, and then at the same time we're very happy because the movie is coming out in theaters all over the world. Like now it was in the Middle East, and then now it's coming out in the Philippines, and then in
Malaysia.
In Russia, it's gonna come in Russia. It's in Malaysia, in Singapore. So it's mind blowing to us because
for us,
we made this little movie and we were not sure of what was gonna happen with it, and it was just let's give it a try, let's do our best, and let's see what happens. And the movie now is out there and people are watching it, and it's insane. So,
well, I have a big New York mouth, so I'll make sure I spread the word to anyone who will listen.
Yes, please.
I talk a lot, as you could probably tell. So yeah, I'll make sure that everyone knows, and we'll, of course, when it does get released, we'll make sure we share it on our social medias to make sure that it's that people get it out there and get out to go see it if they can see if it's theater, if it's playing in the theater near them, or if not, they could rent it or buy it off of one of their streaming services. So this is great. So I just want to thank you all for coming on. This was great. I'd love to get to talk to, and Tim would say the same thing if he was able to be here. That we love when we get to see a film that we really enjoy and then get to talk to the creators and stars of it, because it just gives us that extra little enjoyment to find out how the process went and what was the mindset to make such an enjoyable film for us. So thank you all so much for joining
Thank you
us.
so much for
Thank
your
you,
work.
thank you. And then if you want to have a spoiler talk,
Yeah.
we'd be very happy to do that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
Let-
no,
let
you know
us
what?
know.
I'm going to talk to Tim. Yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll make it. We'll have this released before it comes out, though. But Tim's got a quick turnaround. We should probably have this out next week, so that people have plenty of time to hear it before and they can get ready and pre-order it if they want. But then what we'll do is we'll try and set up we'll set up another time where we can all come on and we can do like a full episode on the movie and get into the real like nitty gritty of it after we give people a couple of weeks to see it.
Yes, absolutely. It'd be fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, really.
Oh, our
Brian,
pleasure.
thank you so much for everything.
So that was good, right, Tim? You like?
Yeah,
that was
that's
a good
awesome.
interview.
Yeah, I'm bummed that I missed it, but unfortunately, the timing didn't work out. I was had a work conflict, so I wasn't able to make it. But yeah, Brian did a great job there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was tough because it was for them. They were in Italy, the directors, and Penelope was in London, so it was like I think 5 hours for her and 6 hours for them. So
Yeah.
we had to do it in the afternoon. Definitely had to play around, but I just didn't want to lose that interview because it was so good. Of course, Stacy over at who always brings us just some of the best interviews. It was great that she was able to set that up. I did not want to let her down and not be able to get this interview. So that was great.
All right, well, let's turn our attention to our feature film this week. We're not going to talk really long about this movie because the episode's already long as it is. But
Yeah.
I don't want to give spoilers because I know some of you are still watching these for the Chainsaw Awards. I know we've given spoilers for some of those, but this one, I don't know how much you could really spoil it because plot-wise, it's not like
Very basic.
It's
yeah.
very basic. I think it's more fun for this one. I think it's much easier to talk more about the themes and the gore because it's a very extreme horror movie.
Oh yeah, very I mean, there was a big thing when it came out. Oh, this is the most disgusting movie you'll ever see, and you're like, all those buzzwords when Shudder debuted it. But
this one is called The Sadness. It came out in 2021, directed by Rob Jabaz, and I'm going to. It's a bunch of names I'm going to destroy.
Wait for Tim to try and get all these in here.
So we have Barant Zhu as Jim, Regina Lei as Kat, Yenru Chen as Molly, Zisheng Wang as businessman, Emerson Tsai as Warren Liu, Weihua Lan as Dr. Alan Wong, Ralph Chu as Mr. Lin, Chinmin Chow as Old Woman, Lu King Huang as Kevin/MRT employee, and Art Jing as Shades Man on the Metro. How'd I do, Brian? Is that okay?
I think you did that pretty good.
I'm gonna go with it. We're just gonna.
Yeah. By the way, that guy, the Kevin MRT employee, didn't he remind you of like Patton Oswalt? Like if this was filmed all in America, he'd be Patton Oswalt.
Definitely, yeah. The synopsis here is a young couple trying to reunite amid a city ravaged by a plague that turns its victims into deranged, bloodthirsty sadists. This one, okay, I'm going to use the term zombies. I know they're not undead. They're technically people that have a disease, so they're not. But come on, this is a zombie movie.
Oh yeah. It's a different take on a zombie film, which frankly you have to do these days because how many times you can just have a straight out zombie and then let it fly. You need something different.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because so many times we're like Tim and I are like we're done with zombie films. Then something like this comes along and I'm like, all right, damn it, this is good.
Well,
I can't.
Here's the thing: if you showed me this film on paper, and you said, okay, well they're not really zombies. They're people with a disease that's kind of like rabies, and it makes them crazy and aggressive. I would still tell you, okay, it's the same movie I've seen a dozen times before. Just because they're not dead doesn't mean I haven't seen this movie already.
It's the crazies.
I've seen the crazies, but no, I'm telling you, you haven't seen crazy zombies quite like this because for some reason, and can't quite put my finger on it, this felt way more realistic to me. and it felt way more.
The gore was really well done.
Yeah,
too.
the gore was incredible. This is, again, make no mistake, this what I would classify as extreme horror in terms of the gore. And I know we've seen, if you've seen Terrifier 2, you go, well, I've seen extreme horror. I mean, I've seen extreme gore. But Terrifier 2 has levity to it. You know, Terrifier 2 has a humor to it that kind of softens the impact of that gore. This movie has no humor. Yeah. So it's presented very realistically. So the gore, even though you may have seen that extreme type of effects before, you might not have seen it in this context where it's very realistic. This feels like something that could be happening.
Well, I mean, look when it came out and look what we had just been through when it came out. So it's like, it's very, it's very fresh, that whole thought process of a pandemic, and all of a sudden things just explode out of control. And
yeah, I thought, to me, like, there were parts of this movie that really, like, I'm not gonna say it scared me, but it got, like, it was unnerving. Like, it felt realistic. It felt like real world scary, because, like, there's a sequence where, and again, I'm not giving really much away, but there's a sequence where one of the disease is not that there's this progression where you can physically see the change. I mean, they do have.
I think yeah, I was gonna say that's maybe what makes this a little scarier, because there's no warning sign.
Yeah, like the person could be like seem perfectly normal 1 second, and then all of a sudden they snap. And then their eyes do turn black, because they did have to have some signifier that they were fully infected. Right. But when they snap is not telegraphed. So there's a sequence where they're on a train or a subway or whatever it was, and one of the guys just starts stabbing somebody out of thin air, and it's shocking, and it's also, it kind of makes you think there's nothing stopping somebody from doing that. In real life, you could have somebody, and people do.
And they're not even crazy. They're not even, like, infected.
Yeah, they're not even
crazy.
infected. Like, you have crazy people that just decide to just randomly kill people. And so it kind of brought that kind of feeling to it, which is why it was so kind of impactful. I mean, honestly, to me, I guess Train to Busan came first, so I understand why. And I'm not saying this is a better film than Train to Busan, because I think Train to Busan had a lot better emotionality to it. There's a lot more emotion to that film than this one. But in terms of, like, awesome zombie movies, like, I think it deserves to be in that tier. I'm surprised I hadn't heard more about this before the Chainsaw Awards. Maybe I just kind of missed it. But
I did bring it up on I did watch it when it first came out, and it was in one of our first chops. But I probably was very vague about it then too, because you hadn't seen it and it just came out.
Yeah, but I mean, I would put it on, like, in the levels of, like, top tier zombie movies. I would put it right up there with the Train to Busan. It's definitely high calorie. Now, if there's one criticism I had about the movie, I think it kind of slowed down as it progressed. I didn't find the third act as impactful as the first two acts. It almost like tapered off, which was kind of surprising. Like, I thought it would keep escalating, and it kind of fizzles out to me.
It got smaller, the movie, because the whole last place took place essentially in one little area.
Yeah. So the movie to me kind of fizzles towards the end. Like, the first 2/3 of the movie are just incredible, and then that last third kind of tapers off. So, I mean, I'm not going to say it messed the movie up or anything, because it's still a phenomenal film. But just be aware going in. I think it could have used a little bit stronger ending for me.
I mean, and I think the one thing that, like, you have to, like, I know this is going to sound weird, but you have to give this movie credit for is it doesn't ever hold back. Like, it doesn't cut away ever. Like really, you the gore, you're going to, I mean, maybe with one exception, there's a scene that's implied. You could tell what's going on, but
yeah, thank goodness they didn't show that one.
Yeah. But, and see, the thing is, what's different about this is these like we said, for lack of a better word, the infected, we'll just say. How's that? Well, the infected, they don't just go sadistic. They get this, like, a carnal urge too. So it's like they're, like, sex obsessed and violence obsessed. Obsessed. And where there's one full on, like, essentially, like, infected orgy going on in the hospital there at one point. If you like, and it's weird too, because I think reading it in the subtitles almost like takes you like it keeps you a little bit out of it. Where I think imagine if this was like that was our native tongue, and we heard all these things being said as they're said.
Yeah.
You know, we
true.
see it as like translated, but like some of the lines, dialogue are just like, oh my God, can you imagine someone actually saying that? You know, it's like,
That's
you
true.
know, and it's
yeah.
like, it's harsh. Like, I mean, the lines are harsh, and the acts of this are harsh. And it's just like, you know, there's just, you know, this characters that, you know, you like, you know, are just so like evil and kind of like scary looking. And I think for the reason Tim said is because, you know what, you know, we've seen and heard stories of this without people being infected, just randomly just going off and like stabbing someone or killing someone. And of course, with me, there's this finger stuff and eye stuff, and I'm like, you know, but it's with. I think the one thing that like it's funny, and I don't know if this was intentional, intentional to put a little bit of levity without making it a sequence of, you know, making something funny in the movie, was that the fact is you have this most horrific situation going on, just ultra violence and gore and sexual deviance and all this crazy stuff, and it's all because of a virus named Alvin.
Yeah.
You know,
True, yeah.
which just cracks me up. All I can picture is this little chipmunk going around, like causing this, you know, and I, you know, and it's just like, it's so funny because like, when you think about it, look at what's going on, and they go like the Alvin virus, and it almost like you're like, Alvin?
But you know what? In real life, it probably would be something dumb like that. Like, I mean, like,
well, it's probably after. Did they actually? I can't remember if they actually explained why it's called that. Was it because of someone who discovered it? Maybe.
Maybe I don't remember the background, but you know, like in real life, like I mean, COVID doesn't have like a fancy ring.
Well,
to
that's
it either.
because I mean, because it's technically the real thing is like SARS,
Yeah.
COVID-19, because that's the, you know, it was the year it was discovered. But
you know, like in real life, that would be it would probably have some dumb name like that. That would probably be what the reality of it. That kind of makes it more realistic. But yeah, that was funny.
It just it sounded kind of funny
Yeah.
when you see what like how like graphic this movie is and how like violent it is, and to hear it like, oh, because of Alvin. You know, it's like, but yeah, I mean it's definitely something that's like it's a hard movie to watch for the sake of that, like, you know, like I mean like, I was like eating during it when I watch it, you know, like the gore doesn't even like, I'm so, even though it's disgusting, it's like I can handle gore, you know, it's not the, but like just when you think about like the whole thing, like imagine like we were, you know, we're in it to some degree, you know, with this quick pandemic that just kind of spiraled out of control and it was all over the place. But I mean, so we were like one step away from this. Well, what if the COVID virus did the same thing that the Alvin virus does in this, where it attacks that like lobe in your brain and makes you like go want to kill everybody, you know? It's like, I mean, people already lost their tempers without something like that, you know, during COVID. Can you imagine if that was where the virus attacked? It attacked the respiratory system. But in this, it attacked that brain. What's the lobe? Something lobe, they said?
Yeah, it basically acted like rabies, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, so imagine, like, look how, like, what if that's the next thing that comes to us? I mean, seriously. I mean, like, there's, like, like, there's really no way to escape it. Like, based on, unless, you know, unless you're one of the lucky that I guess are immune. Because, like, everything, someone's always going to be immune to something.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, like, imagine that. Like, you imagine that nowadays. Like, imagine, like, that I mean, yes, you know, Japan is very populated and, you know, a lot of, like, tight trains and crowded thing. But, like, you know, I mean, I remember I'm in Long Island, you know, close to New York, and you've been to New York with me, so you know what it's like, how people are packed, like up against each other. Imagine one person like on that train like that on a New York subway. Forget it.
Yeah,
it's like a buffet.
That was a very disturbing sequence. The entire subway scene. Yeah, like this whole movie was. But if you want, again, I'm surprised. I'm continuously shocked every time I recommend a zombie movie because I'm so burned out. But they keep making good ones, and I don't know.
I know
how they keep doing it. But this one's definitely worth the watch. It's on Shudder. It's up for a Chainsaw Award for Best First Feature, which is incredible. And I'm gonna tell you, it got my vote.
It didn't get mine, but not because just because I love, like, the one I did pick. I mean, we're going through a preview, but I could say I picked Deadstream just because I love that one so much.
Yeah, I was back and forth between the two, and ultimately I went this one because my voting for the Chainsaw Awards, I ended up going more when I started thinking about whenever I had a tiebreaker, I went with the one that I felt was the more like scary to me. So that's why I picked this one. But it was definitely
Tim and I did not agree on everything on our chainsaws. They're definitely, you'll see. We're gonna when we do our roundtable. But I mean, do you think like how did that category? How did Zach? How do you say Krieger from Barbarian? Wasn't that his first feature? How did he not get nominated for that?
Yeah, unless they were just trying to split it up and because I know he got Best Director nominee. So
well, yeah, but they didn't have a problem putting Nope for everything. But
yeah, I don't know, but yeah,
we'll go into that during.
We got a roundtable for that. Yeah,
we have a roundtable, and we will discuss many of those. Between I have a couple of snubs here. We decided we're gonna do like a limit of like 3 snubs or something because there's a couple that I'm really like I just don't understand it. I just do not understand how it was left out. I'm still upset about Tiger's Not Afraid wasn't even nominated for Best International the year it was out, so go figure.
Yeah. All right, Brian, so what beer pairing did you have for this one? So a great one. This is a great one.
It's called The Incurable Sadness, and it's from DC Brow Brewing Company. Actually, it's in Washington, D.C. That got cut off somehow. I don't know what happened, but it is in Washington, D.C. It's funny, 420. 4.20% is the ABV, so it's light. It's brew with an Irish ale yeast, Willamette hops, and a mix of 2-row malts, toasted flaked barley, and roasted barley. Incurable Sadness is a classic Irish dry stout with a deep roast character and pleasant bitterness. Although I don't know how much pleasant bitterness you'll find in this movie. You just find bitterness.
All right, we have a fan topic food question, which I will try to get through before my voice is slowly fading away. Because we had a big interview right before we recorded this, which you guys are gonna love.
Oh yeah, but that's gonna get its own episode. Well, when you're hearing this later in the week.
Yeah, look out for that one because that's a great interview. So the fan topic food question is: which movie would you want to live in?
I'm like struggling to figure this one out. I mean, there's a couple like easy ones I think I have, but
I came up with one. And
okay, why don't you go first?
It's definitely not a horror movie.
No, this doesn't have to be horror. Remember,
this is
Fantopic Foo is anything.
Yeah, because movie you want to live in, there's no horror movie I want to live in. Period. I went with Back to the Future. I want to live in a world where time travel is possible. I love time travel stuff. I love time travel stories. I love time travel movies, and I just like the whole world of Back to the Future. Like every time I watch Back to the Future, it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. So I think I would want to live in that world where maybe I could somehow persuade Doc to take me on a time travel adventure.
I think so. As a friend of yours, I could say you're quite delightful to be around, Jim. So I don't see why he wouldn't.
I know. I just have to get in good with him and see if I can hop in the DeLorean and go somewhere. Again, those movies, I cherish those movies so much because this was a hard question. It was a really hard question because I'm like, what movie would I want to live in? Because you don't want to live in something where it's a horror movie where you could die. You don't want to live in the apocalypse. You don't want to live. And most movies have some source of conflict because to drive the plot. So you don't have a lot of movies that are just all feel good all the time.
Yeah. But I mean, even Back to the Future, you could do something that could look at what happened to poor Marty, right?
Yeah.
What if you go back? I mean, definitely, I could not live in that movie because I'm way too klutzy. I'd probably go back in time, trip, fall, like. Kill the guy that's going to cure cancer, something like that accidentally. So I couldn't do that. I mean, mine's kind of I don't know. Might be a bit of a cop out, but I think I'd probably just because it's my favorite movies of all time. I would say this, the Star Wars universe, just because one, I'd want a lightsaber.
I don't. Two, I almost picked that. I honestly almost picked that. So I don't blame you.
But two, I mean, imagine just getting to fly. Yeah, granted, I would not want to be like. I'd have to pick my time period of the movie because I really don't know if I'd be like up for like constant like battles. Like I think I'd want to live in like kind of an area where I could use a lightsaber, but like maybe I'd be like in like maybe like my part of Star Wars as I haven't been in that yet. Like it's after like Rise of Skywalker, where now like everything is like kind of at a moment of peace, and like I in my head like they're starting a new Jedi training thing, so I could probably like hopefully just go into that and try and use a lightsaber. But just fun, like to fly the ships and stuff, and kind of cool things and the technology and stuff. But
yeah, no, I think it's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, even like anything like, I mean, we're always, being a sci-fi fan, you always want to, you think of the future kind of thing, and because it's hard to want to live in a movie. Now, live in a scene, oh, that's easy. You could pick a million different scenes you might like to live in. You know which other one I thought might have been fun? It's like to live in the movie, but I don't know. You still have to kind of like live it as Willy Wonka.
I almost picked that one too, honestly. Like a world where Willy Wonka, but then it's one of those things. Almost like Back to the Future. It's like it's like you would have to live in such a specific way. Like if I lived in the Back to the Future, like a normal person would just live in the 80s.
Yeah,
like unless you can get a hold of the time machine, you're just living in normal 1980s because it takes place in our world. It just happens to be a world where time travel is possible. So, it's the same thing there. It's like for Willy Wonka, like if you don't live in the chocolate factory, you're just living in a normal world where Wonka chocolates happen to exist. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they do think about it. You did think about it. They do have Wonka chocolates out in life now,
well,
but
that's true.
It's not the same thing. Like they don't come from like a magical factory. As far
they
as
even have everlasting gobstoppers. They're just not actually everlasting, but.
Yeah, and they don't look like they do in the movie either.
No.
They're like literally.
Which
like
is like they would choke you to death.
Yeah, either one is dangerous. Like, first of all, any round candy is like a ball candy. Is just like, who thought of that? Like, really, who thought that was a good idea? I mean, like I almost died because of one of those stupid sucking sour balls. If my dad didn't give me the Heimlich, I'd be dead at 5 years old. Trust me. But yet, oh no, what would be like? So this is kind of an awkward. It's kind of a horror movie, but I'd kind of want to just be in there to try like the some of those. Remember we always said we wanted to just be able to try that like LaBelle's Gambit, like the one from Ready or Not. Like we just wanted to play some of the games that he had in the gaming family.
Oh yeah. Like it's like now you're starting to get like. I want to be in this movie, but I don't want to be killed. I want to be in this movie.
Yeah, I just want to be like able to play. But that's what I said. So like scenes are easy, or like stuff like that. Like it'd be fun to kind of do that kind of thing, or or like I don't. Or like like a movie like like Click or something like that would scare me. If I had a remote that I could do things like that. Because it's too easy to mess stuff up.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good question. I like those. Yeah. I like those conversation starter type ones. Those are good. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up there, and we will see you back here next week. Also, look out for that mini-sode midweek. We're going.
We might have 3 episodes this week because we have this one, the mini-sode, and the dismemberment this week.
That's right. Yeah.
3 week. Which is good because we may like maybe that HorrorCon week we may not have it. We might skip a week, so it's good that we. Load it up now.
Yeah, so be looking out for some more episodes this week. See you soon.
See ya.